Hello and welcome to American Wasp. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, joined today by a special guest from DSA Silicon Valley. Meet none other than Jessen F from the northern half of the state. I am roughly on the 50-yard line in between LA and San Francisco. He is closer to the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And we're going to be talking about all things DSA today. But starting off with a little bit about my man Jessen here, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks a little bit about yourself, how you became involved with the DSA, and what your role is with it today.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much, man, for having me here. Do I sound okay? Can you hear
You
me
sound great.
decently?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. Originally from Portland, Oregon, which is where I first got introduced to organizing. I got into tenant organizing in Portland back in 2014, 2015. And just through relationships I had, I found I really wanted to focus on labor. And a
Uh-huh.
little kind of a funny statistic is that there's more workers in LA County than in the state of Oregon, just like
Wow.
geographically. So I did a salting campaign for a grocery store called New Seasons in Portland, which we didn't win at the time. Eventually, they did go on to win later on a campaign I didn't work on, but I'm very proud of them. Came to California in 2017 and got hired by SEIU and was an external union organizer there. And then I was originally in the Bay working out of the Oakland area and came down to San Jose in March 2019 and joined DSA in 2019. But I was a paper member for a long time and only got really involved in my chapter in 2023. Got recruited by a comrade in the chapter that set up a one-on-one with me, and then
Uh-huh.
got active, got onto our steering committee in 2024, ran for co-chair in 2025, and then ran for re-election just now. And this is my second term as co-chair of our chapter.
Excellent. Excellent. And for those who don't know, California DSA is pretty strong in general. Lots of strong chapters here. And I had a DSA LA guy on Friday come and join the show, and he had a lot of interesting things to say. What is the best part about the left right now, and what is the worst part about the left right now?
Oh, great question, man. Uh, I think the best part about the left right now is the increased focus on winning. I think the Zoran campaign really showed people that that the left is not supposed to be a social club where you just air your grievances with society, but it's a
There you go.
place where working people can come together and actually win and make material improvements in their life.
There
And
you
I
go.
think we're seeing more and more that is the direction we're going in so many different DSA chapters. And we've been able to sort of shed a lot of, I think, were the bad habits from beforehand. Uh, the worst part about the left is just that we're still so disorganized.
Yeah.
It is very hard to get the traction to do what we need to do, whether it's trying to copy what they did in New York or 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 even just get your ducks in the row for a small race. So the North Star is being able to get everybody in line. And until we have that day, we're going to still just be kind of floundering, getting pushed around by the right. It would be my take.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, it just kind of question came to my mind listening to you talk about it, and so I'd say the best part is embracing competition, like you said, and
Mm,
understanding that we can bitch and moan, or we can work together and win. Because we're not going to be able to affect change if we don't win. We can have all the best ideas in the world, doesn't mean a goddamn thing if we don't have power. So that's like embracing that culture of competition, which I think is really hard for a lot of leftists. You know, we've got all the
yeah.
artists, for example. We got a lot of people who don't like competition, who don't like conflict. And that's okay as long as they're not the leaders. I'm big on the leaders being competitive people. who hate losing, hate MAGA, hate neoliberalism, and have a chip on their shoulder with something to prove. So that's just extrapolating your point into a specific part of the institution and where that competitiveness, I think, should manifest, which is in leadership positions. The worst. Let me just wrap up. The worst part
Sure.
of this of the left is my anxiety about what we're going to do with power once we have it, because we've never had it.
Yeah.
We don't have the experience with power, and that's my real concern. Is that, and it's not a concern that's immediate, right? It's probably a few cycles away, but the fractionalization that you alluded to can lead to bad leadership once we have power, and that would really hurt the cause, because then it's like, oh, you see, once they have power, they screw it up. But anybody who knows their political history knows that we haven't had power in this country since, the end of World War II. Before FDR died, it was the closest we got, and that was probably problematic back then as well. But so we're in agreement. I would just say that that lack of experience, and it's kind of related to what you were saying about being disorganized still, where it's like herding cats. There's a lot of we're all about the collective on the left, but the individual thinking skills are so strong that everybody thinks that they're right about everything.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of take good candidates with their baggage. Like we could talk about Graham Plattner and Abdul El-Sayed for a second, because they are just the two most famous political figures that are rising on the American left right now. And, I don't have any issues with Abdul El-Sayed, but obviously Plattner's got some baggage. I don't care. They're good candidates. They're popular. They have a good ground game going. Like, who are we to judge the imperfections of these people? Because they're actually, given the political climate now, it's probably worse than the 50s and 60s, or it's getting close. And these people, by saying they're progressive, by saying they're DSA members, by saying that they're socialists, they're risking their lives. They're really risking their lives by running for office. So I got all the respect in the world for them. I think it takes a lot of balls to run for office, especially as a leftist in this political climate, where you don't have just the MAGA trash coming after you. You got the establishment neoliberals. So, people are all bummed out about Plattner's Nazi tattoo. It's like, dude, the guy served in the military. They do stupid shit like that. He probably didn't even know it was a Nazi tattoo at the time. He definitely didn't know. Who cares? Like, the weirder thing is him serving as a mercenary, right? Like, that's a little bit of a sketchier thing. And I don't know much about Abdul El-Sayed, except for that he's a complete pro. Like, I've seen him on camera, and he's awesome. And it's like, if you're camera friendly, meaning like, you're not difficult to look at, you got good skills on camera, you know how to communicate with pace and data, and you don't have like a perfect record, I don't care, because the skill set is what matters most right now. Like Alexandria Ocasio, I put this question to another guest recently. Who's the more talented athlete who's the more talented political athlete in New York right now? Zoran Mamdani or AOC? Zoran.
Yeah, 100%.
Zoran's freakishly talented. He's so good. These videos that he's doing, it's like, yes, this is what I have been advocating for the left to embrace since I really got on board with the progressive left in 2016. When it's like, what do we have that the right doesn't? Well, there are a lot of things, but the most obvious to me, as someone who has worked in Hollywood and studied storytelling and creativity, it's creativity. We have, like I said in the beginning, all the artists. We have all the creative types. Let's use that talent. Let's use that core competency. And he's been doing that by making these great videos. That I don't know if you saw that one, Municipal Grin, because they were making fun of how he smiles all the time in interviews or whatever. So he does a video about it.
I didn't see that one. I saw one that he was able to do where he was able to draw some attention to. There was some word I noticed he would use this one word too much. He would say and ultimately we need to do X, and that was sort of a little like a crutch for him. And he did a video where he's like, my comms team tells me I need to say ultimately less. And he's what's awesome about what he's been able to bring is he's self-effacing in a way that you only can be if you really have the juice, right?
Right.
Like if you're an actual loser and you're self-effacing, people can smell that's your insecurity. This guy is not
Right.
insecure, but he's a human being as well. A couple of things that was going through my mind with it, what you're saying there is one of the analogies I like to use a lot is I love you talking about competition there. I think it's so important. I talk about thinking of it as a game, right? So
Yes.
when you play Monopoly, even though you know it's a game, you play to win. And nobody starts playing Monopoly with the intention of just having a little car. If you want to if you want to be the thimble, be the thimble. If you want to be the car, be the car. That's your choice. But you're here to win. And our goal should be to win the game. And so when people are like, well, I'm just here to have a nice time. Nobody is here just to have a nice time playing Monopoly.
This is
You're here
politics.
to
Yeah.
win, you know?
Yeah.
And so if we don't think of it that way and we just think of it as an exercise in being there, the people who are playing to win will just trounce you.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, even though we often don't win, we see by people like Zoran who play to win. When you play to win, like our platform is popular, their platform is not. Like people want healthcare, people want housing. People don't actually want to just terrorize immigrants. They know it doesn't really go anywhere.
Right.
And so when he was up there and he just like openly mocked and dog walked Cuomo, people loved it because it was like, this is the platform that we want from a sort of virile approach to what's going on. We're not here to get pushed around and then just feel bad that we got pushed around. We can push back, and we can actually push back because there's more of us than there is of them. We just have to be
Right.
ready to actually push back, you know?
Right. Yeah. And let's be serious. The rhetorical demand on Zoran is very specific, right? Like he has to care about those 5 boroughs, and really 4 out of the 5 boroughs, because Manhattan is just never gonna like him. But like for example, when he first came to power, he did not endorse the DSA member that was challenging Jeffries.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
she Ose. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a Gen Zer, and he didn't have a chance. He wouldn't have won anyway. But I felt like that was a little bit of overstepping. Like, just because you're the hottest thing since sliced bread the left has ever seen. That's kind of the New York DSA's territory, that race. But whatever, we'll get rid of Jeffries at some point. For now, let's talk about California.
Sure.
Because California governor's race is really catching a lot of national attention, and I'd be interested to know what the northern half of the state has to say about it, or the northern coastal area, because it's the vibe that I'm getting from other chapters is like, yeah, I guess we're recommending, but not endorsing a fucking billionaire
Yeah.
for governor. Oliver Ma, who I want to talk about too, for lieutenant governor, has earned the DSA California's endorsement, which is very hard to do for those of you uninterested. But for those of you who don't know about the DSA takes itself very seriously with respect to electoralism. And we don't just endorse anybody. We have very strict criteria by which we evaluate candidates. And if that criteria isn't satisfied, then that person usually will just get a recommend, or if that. So the fact that a guy running for state office, Oliver Ma, got the California endorsement's a big deal. The fact that a billionaire in Tom Steyer got the recommend is also a big deal. So DSALA is like a little surprised in themselves too that they're doing it, but it's like looking at the field of serious candidates. I mean, he's got the right positions. You just got to get past this idea that he killed it in the private sector and made a ton of money. He says he doesn't want to die a billionaire. He says he wants to give it all away, like give his kids a couple $100 million and then the rest away. Like, sounds good to me. What else is he supposed to do?
Yeah. So for us in California, so a couple of things for us in Silicon Valley DSA. So our chapter is primarily based in San Jose, and our mayor, a man named Matt Mahan, is one of these candidates for governor. Someone who I would say is people are somewhere between ambivalent in despising this man in our city. He's a guy who's never finished a term. He was on city council, and he's just always had aspirations of climbing the ladder.
Right.
So nobody in San Jose likes this guy. We had kind of a funny thing with Steyer. In San Jose, kind of the biggest thing that happens in the left is our May Day parade that we do every year. And Tom Steyer came, and we have pictures of him talking with my other co-chair, and he's wearing a Workers Over Billionaires t-shirt that was given to him. And then our mayor of our city, nowhere to be found. You know, he wouldn't dare show his face because he'll get tomatoes thrown at himself. So, this has been a big debate. And at our convention that we just had, there was a resolution that somebody brought to endorse Ramsey Robinson, the PSL candidate, and it lost. Brought an endorsement to endorse Ma. It also lost. And what we ended up doing in our voter guide was we made no recommendation for governor, though we did an anti-recommendation against Mahan that we particularly tell people don't vote for him, which was great. It felt very good. And then our recommendation was yes on Ma for lieutenant governor. Yeah. So bring it back with Steyer is I think what a lot of people get caught up in is aesthetics, right? Aesthetically, we don't like that it's a billionaire. Isn't our whole position to be against billionaires? Yes, of course, we don't want billionaires to exist as a class of people, but then you have strategic decisions to make. And of these crops of candidates, I don't know what to tell you. He's the best candidate. He's the one that aligns most with our positions. And I can't, my sort of, it makes my tummy rumble. That doesn't matter, right? What's going to set DSA up to be able to best move our program with the person who's the head of the state of California? It's Steyer. So, we, as a chapter, we didn't feel like it was right for us as a chapter to make it. But, we have people on our chapter that are voting for Steyer, and I don't think anyone else is going to get a vote. A couple people might vote for Robinson here and there. Have you cast your ballot yet?
No, not yet. I have to do some more research into certain local races. But I've been on. Here's the thing with Steyer. A couple things. One is just the human element. How can you trust him, right? Because he is a billionaire. Well, billionaires who have good therapists or who are just maintain their humanity and don't let that sociopathy of wealth affect them, they do know that they're going to die someday. And they do know that when you die, your reputation becomes your legacy. And right now, Tom Steyer's reputation is that he was a maverick in business, huge balls, took some huge risks early on, recognized that he was lucky to get successful early. Because if you don't get successful early, then you don't have a chance of becoming a self-made billionaire. Inherited wealth is usually what the billionaire status comes from. But he recognizes how lucky he was and that the system isn't fair, and he wants to make the system more fair. And his legacy, once he's gone, he wants it to be the guy that did well in the private sector, but then got into public service and kind of whipped the backbone of America's fat ass into shape. I mean, California has so much going for it, and yet our government is just this overweight, out of shape, lazy bum. I mean, the fact that Xavier Becerra is even remotely close to Tom Steyer in polling right now is pathetic. I mean,
crazy.
He is so dirty. He would be worse. He would be like Newsom, but significantly worse. Yeah. And yet he's rising in the polls. And I have to believe that it's because there's a lot of low information voters out there where, this is maybe an interesting topic of conversation because you're from Oregon originally. I'm sure it's different from California. Yeah. I'm from Boston originally, very different from California. We just grow up kind of taking our citizenship pretty seriously. Back east, like you read the news, the names of the mayor and the governor. And, when shit goes down, when there's huge drama on Capitol Hill, like, you might not know everything, but you know most things. And in California, I think we're dealing with a lot of apathy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think California is an interesting place that it's like a libertarian wet dream, right? The way the state is set up, the way it's spread out so far. I mean, how many Massachusettses could you fit inside of California, right? It's just there's a lot more density in a place like that. Where just like everyone is closer to you. California has always allowed people to sort of like live in their own la la land. One of the things that blew my mind when I came down to the Bay was how many little municipal cities are set up. Like in the South Bay where I live, I have San Jose, Santa Clara, Campbell, Mountain View, Los
Right.
Gatos, Milpitas.
Yeah.
And so each one has its own little mayor and its own little city council. And it's set up so that you can't really get organized. I Are the folks low information? I think one thing that I think is unfortunate is that we do good things and bad things at the same time. It's good that we've been able to demonize billionaires, but then when we're in a position, like I'm sure Becerra is a millionaire. I don't know exactly,
Sure.
but like what difference does it make one way or the other? Who has supported him matters more, right? The Chevron and all this weird PG&E stuff. These are the people that support him, and they're against Steyer. So what does that tell you?
Right.
Last thing I'll just say with Becerra that's sort of funny is I heard some people talking about, oh, well, he sued Trump this number many of times. And I'm like, and what good did it do?
Right.
And you could sue him 100 times, 150 times. Clearly, these people haven't learned how to actually fight Trump for whatever that means. I don't know why you'd want to give this guy the keys and think that you can trust him to stand up to your opponent. If anything, Steyer seems the one most likely to stand up to people who are against him.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you see some certain videos of like Steyer getting protested in certain ways. And you're like, are people paying attention to what this guy is saying? Or are they just pissed off that the guy's a billionaire? And I think it's the latter. So, Becerra is a testament to the ignorance of a large contingent of the voting public out here on the left. I just did some videos, and I'm in the middle of doing Obama. I just did the Clinton years, and before that I did about the 3 cardinal sins of American party politics, and those are hypocrisy, narcissism, and ignorance. And ignorance is the worst of them because it allows for the other 2 to happen. If you're not ignorant, if you're a cognizant person, then you're less likely to be a hypocrite and you're less likely to be a narcissist because you're taking in information and trying to evaluate other people's perspectives and life experiences. And it's just another fancy way of dissecting empathy and the purpose of learning. Yeah.
How does Hilton? I know you. One thing I think is very interesting is the way that you've your cultivated focus on the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant as like a class of people.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that needs to happen more. Where do you see Hilton fitting into all of this? Like, here's this guy, I never heard of him before. All of a sudden, he's polling at number 2. He just came to America from the UK. Do you have an analysis from that on him, or?
Mm-hmm. So his ethos is giving intellectual credibility to people who do not deserve intellectual credibility, in much the same way that Ben Shapiro does, or in a way that Kirk did as well, where this is someone who comes across as intelligent and makes stupid people feel smart by being their voice. And it doesn't, and he's, because he's got that accent, because he's got that training, that British rhetorical training, which admittedly my training derives from those traditions, from many of those traditions. But he is easy to counterattack because he has no ideas. It's all just smaller government, deregulation, more cops. That's all he knows. He doesn't understand the environmental issues facing this state because they're as diverse as the population of the people themselves. And he doesn't understand the infrastructural demands of this state. For example, that rail system, the high-speed rail, like topographically, geographically, you know what the rail system that actually made sense Everyone thought it was San Francisco to LA. It's not. It's Sacramento to LA because it goes right down the valley, and you don't need to go over hills and underneath mountains and shit. And Sacramento's an enormous city. People don't understand how huge Sacramento is. It's huge. And so if you just got that one done first, and then you did the Bay Area after that, then it would have worked a lot better, and you'd had like a fork in the road. But I don't know. I don't know what the rail system, the status of the rail system is. I always knew, because of the topography, that a high-speed rail system in California was problematic. I always knew that. It was going to take serious investment. I don't know what the next governor is going to do with it, but I know, like, for example, housing is a more pressing issue. Like, people don't care about the high-speed rail. They care about the housing. They care about healthcare. Yeah. They care about, like, it's dollars and cents, dude. We're all like, I said this recently to someone. He was like, you got to be careful if you say this, but it's kind of true. Over 50% of the country is in some form of debt, whether it be medical debt, credit card debt, or school debt, academic debt. More than half the country can't afford a $500 emergency. It's all getting worse. These are old statistics. These have all gotten worse. So
yeah, these are you're doing like Bernie 1.0.
Right. So these have all gotten worse. So it's like we're all kind of like people who are pressed for cash, which is pretty much everybody. We're slaves to money, man. Like, you don't want to think of yourself that way, but 90% of what I do when I'm awake, like not 90%, but like 75% of what I'm doing when I'm awake is like worrying about making ends meet so that I can have more time for the DSA. And then the 25% that I make possible because of that other 75%, that basically goes towards my wife, dogs, and DSA. And that's, that's kind of where I'm at with my life right now. Thank God I don't have kids. I wouldn't be able to be in the DSA or be as active as I am if I didn't, if I had kids. Man.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have kids, and I'm able to, work late into the night or work on a weekend, and there's no children that are like begging to be fed. And I'm able to do this work. It is a little worrying for me, though, is that will DSA become more and more just the territory of childless millennials?
Yeah.
Like, can we burrow into the working class communities that do have a bunch of kids running around?
I know,
because we need them, and I sometimes, like, when I go to our DSA meetings, we just had our convention, and we were worrying about childcare, and then we decided it wasn't worth the rub, and only one person brought one child, and it was enough to, like, we didn't even need childcare. But when you get 100 people in the room, it used to be like when I was a kid, if you got that many adults in a room, there's at least 10 kids running around.
Yeah.
Now there's no kids, which is an interesting thing to live in this sort of childless world.
The thing about it is parents with a family will join a union because there's an obvious material benefit towards being a part of that union. Now the DSA, and I bring that up because of your union experience, the DSA should be the electoral partner with that union. So that's, I think, the access point for people with families is usually through their unions or whoever's giving them benefits, or I think the most important work that DSA does is electoralism, because of what we started this conversation with, which is if you don't have power, you can't make a difference. If you don't have power, you don't matter. So I feel like, because people don't understand how small the DSA is, we just hit 100,000 people, 100,000 members across the whole country, 100,000 members.
Out of 300 million. I think it feels like a lot because of how long it took us to get there. But when you actually think 100,000 is like a small town in Ohio. Yeah. And, what is that? Probably 30% is just New York and LA. Maybe more than that. Yeah. And you're so concentrated on either coast. I mean, yeah.
But we're political geeks, and we know our history, and we know our ideology, and we know our labels, and most people don't. So I think the DSA should aspire to be kind of that friend within the mosaic of activism groups, whether they be unions or whether they be activism groups or whatever community groups that I'm still just becoming familiar with. Within that mosaic, I want the DSA to be kind of that older brother, older sister that's like, yeah, we've been keeping an eye on these political players, and here's what we think of them. Like the voter guide, right, needs to be prolific. Like I can't
Yeah.
wait for the DSA voter guide to come out, you know?
Yeah, so in our chapter here in San Jose, so I work at the local labor union that represents the county workers. So we have the most union members in the area, and it's been a big part of our intentional project in our chapter to integrate as much as we can with the union. And a good friend of mine, she was on the NPC. She's active in Portland DSA. We had a good conversation recently about like DSA needs to have its base. Like, what is our a political party with no base? Like you're just floating in the wind, and our base needs to be the unions.
Yes.
So we need to be as much in the lives of the unions as possible. So like we've moved all of our meetings to the union hall where I work. So it does a sort of a double-edged thing, is like the union members are very used to seeing DSA, seeing our symbols, seeing our iconography inside of the building. It gets our DSA members comfortable interacting with what I would call regular people, people who get involved in the left because of their material interests for better wages and benefits, instead of the DSA folks their only imagination of the left being, an extreme identitarian, pursuit for themselves. Getting to actually interact there has been big for us in opening the eyes of our DSA members of how do you actually organize people that don't already agree with you on 90% of items. And I think we've seen the chapters, Portland, where I'm from, I didn't get involved in DSA till I left, but they did huge work, Portland DSA, on the Oregon nurses strike that just happened. 42 days on strike, the biggest strike in the history of the state. And who did the nurses see out there with them every day? DSA. And so you got nurses flocking into DSA because they see these people have our backs. And if we aren't able to walk in lockstep with workers who are taking those risks, like going on strike, we're going to seem like we're just trying to pinch off of them. We need to be tethered together with them,
Yeah, and if they want to join, cool, and if they don't, no big deal. Like that's I feel like there's a lot of people, for example, in my space, where you've got like the Vanguard guys, and you've got Sam Cedar, and you've got Kyle Kolinsky, and I don't think any of them are actually members of the DSA, but they talk about the DSA a lot, and what our general, although they didn't cover when they censured AOC, but I'm just realizing that right now, but they do care. Like they care. It's just, I think, I tell people who are new to the DSA that there's like 3 levels. There's like the paper members that you described yourself as for a while, who don't even really go to meetings, or if they go a couple of times a year, but they don't really talk, and they're just there to pay their dues and show up for events every now and then. Then there's the people that show up and, to every meeting or to most meetings, and they show up to events for the most part, but they're not doing a whole lot of talking during the meetings. And then there are the talkers in the meetings, and those are the steering committee members and the working group heads and so forth. And they're doing a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the real work. Oh, they're doing all the real work, really. And everyone else is there to kind of support them. And so I think on the outsiders, though, DSA looks like the activism group for the hardcore political aficionados. That's what the DSA looks like. It looks
And
like
that's
the
a
people
problem.
who love, who are bookish, right? Because I'm not bookish. I like to read a little bit, but I'm not going to go read, everything, all this literature that gets handed out to me at DSA meetings and stuff. I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, I've got to, this is not my ability. My strength is destroying conservatism. Like, the reason why I have the show that I do, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. We founded this country, and the whole idea of individualism that kind of plagues our culture starts with my heritage, with my people. And if you want to understand conservatism, it's not good enough to just say it's white trash fascism. Yes, that's true, but that is the net result of a devolution of that culture that's taken place over time and came to a fork in the road with the Catholics. And I try to explain that the WASP is the least community-oriented culture in all of America. The Catholic whites, and then you go into the people of color, and then you go into the LGBTQ plus IA communities. All of these communities have stronger senses of collectiveness than do the WASPs. So this MAGA culture, this like hyper individualism, which kind of horseshoes around to the collective threat of fascism, starts with the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant thinking that this country belongs to them. And I label it as this. I say the core personality trait of the East Coast WASP is inauthentic, narcissistic, social entitlement. And that's what you've got that's why like American exceptionalism is such a big deal. And if you want to take down all these people who like hate on because you're a leftist and you criticize America, it's like, first of all, that's like one of the most important parts of being an American is criticizing the country. That's how the country gets better. It's self-critical nature. It's actually one of the most beautiful parts of our democracy is its self-critical nature. But then the people who get pissed off by that criticism are usually just patriots. And Oscar Wilde said that patriotism is a virtue of the vicious, exaggerated patriotism, the most ill form of self-conceit. And that's what MAGA is. It's patriotism on steroids. And it's imperialism now we're seeing with Iran. Again, here we go again. We had Vietnam, we had Iraq, we had Afghanistan, and now we've got Iran. So it all kind of funnels back to like, and I think this is where a lot of minorities, they say, oh, that's just white nationalists. It's like, well, get specific. What kind of white nationalist? Is it a Confederate flag-waving, Bible-beating gun nut, which I think is the most of MAGA, that's like pulls most of MAGA, or is it some other kind? Like there's a lack of attention to detail for a lot of leftists who think they're ready to criticize the right. See, that's the bipolar nation of the left. I think you either get someone who's really strong as a leftist but doesn't know how to criticize, or like me, where I know how to go after the right as well as anyone. It's replacing it is the stuff that I have had to do homework on. And it's like, what are we going to replace MAGA with? And then here we are back to like, you know, my overall concern, what is the left going to do with power once we've had it, because we've never had it.
One of the things I think people, because they're disgusted with the positions of the other side, are unwilling to do is understand their opponent's position.
Right. It's
a
strengths
crucial
and
part
and
of
strengths.
And it's a crucial part of any negotiation is you have to see things from your opposition's viewpoint. And what everybody is trying to do, no matter who they are, they're trying to solve problems that they perceive in their life, right? Mm-hmm. These people, all the conclusions they've come to are incorrect, but they look at the world and they see that things are getting worse, and they're trying to figure out how. And if so, when we just throw them in the garbage, instead of bringing solutions to the problems in their life, well, you totally miss the opportunity to actually win with anybody that doesn't already agree with you. Right. It makes sense that people, if you live in a world where you get very tribalistic, oh, these people seem different than me. And then someone says, yeah, they are different than you and they're making your life bad. You're like, okay, well, there's a certain logic to that. Even if you're coming to the wrong conclusion, we have to be able to understand what they are feeling to drive them in a position to solve their problems. Because here's the thing, if Trump deports every single person who does not have papers, it's not going to fix their problems.
No, it's going to make it worse.
It's just gonna, yeah, it's gonna make it worse. All of the solutions that they propose are not gonna fix it. We have to be able to actually fix it, and then we can win those people. Because we're not gonna flip the ship over with just our handful of wackos on our side. We have to
No.
pull some people, like all those people. They have to come over, and they won't come until they see, oh, joining with DSA or joining with the left makes my life better.
Well, I think so. Two things. One is, yes, it's a sad reality, but we do live in a narcissistic culture. And priority number one with political communication is connecting big problems with small problems. And by that, I mean connecting macroeconomic problems with people's daily lives and how it's affected. Like gas prices are the easiest example, cost of eggs and
Right.
all that shit. Healthcare and housing is where we win. That's like the big policy advances that I would like to see. I promoted within campaign rhetoric because they're so relatable for everybody. The DSA, though, I think has a special opportunity to be kind of the glue within this mosaic of groups, of activism groups throughout the country. I think that our first priority should be trying to tell liberals that we can do more with government than you think we can. Like the argument, how are we going to pay for it? That counter argument works with them. And we need to transcend that one barrier. Then behaviorally, like if we want big systemic change deriving from the power of the vote, it's getting people to vote twice in even years. Not once, but twice. I don't know if it's I think in California, it's a majority of general voters also vote in the primary, but it's not like 100. It's not even close to 80 or 90% or what it should be. Like people, that's our key to power is the primary elections, and if we can get more people to be like, okay, it's an even year. Why is it an even year? Because it's divisible by 2. I'm supposed to vote twice. Like even just that.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, you vote twice in even years. I mean, I've been saying it on my YouTube channel for a while now. I just don't have much of an audience, so nobody hears it. But it's like something Obama could have done. Like like moving the culture in a way where we get people to vote, because the way we win elections isn't by necessarily getting it is a lot about independence, but it's mostly about participation. I mean, if we had 80% voter turnout nationally, then Democrats would win across the board. And if we had those people voting in primaries, then progressives would win a lot more frequently too. But it's a pain in the ass to vote in a suburban or urban area.
It is. And I think the conception of what is the role of what one might call the citizen has to become a central point of a truly democratic society. And when we have socialism, the role of the citizen will have to be at the center, right? America today, the primary role that any American has for themselves, or the way that they conceptualize themselves, is not as a citizen, but as a consumer. And your expression of who you are is, what are the things that you consume? Oh, I'm a Netflix person. Oh, well, I'm a Hulu person. Oh, I'm a McDonald's person. I'm a Burger King person. And this is the sort of array of things that you get offered to express yourself. But you can reject those things. And if we create a mass enough perception of self through organization that is not the main way to express yourself, voting can be fun. Participating in politics can be fun. Like part of the special sauce of Zoran's campaign was that people were having a great time doing it.
Right.
And you make it a great time, people will do it. But most people, they come home from work, they're fucking exhausted, and all they can do is collapse on the couch and watch, 3 hours of their Netflix slop, right? And we have to be able to.
I can't. Real quick tangent. I have given up on
Please.
Hollywood. I used to work in Hollywood, and I just like, I consume 90% of what I consume now is like political content, and I just need to like, I just can't stop learning from smart people like you and other members of the DSA
Oh,
and
it's very kind.
other good. Well, I mean, through the DSA, I've met some real powerful minds, and I mean that's what I enjoy the most is learning from people who are usually come from a different background, but more importantly, they just think of things that I wouldn't come up with on my own, and I don't get that where I'm currently living, and I don't get that from watching Netflix's B plus content. Like
Yeah, the
nothing's
latest
not,
slop.
when I was growing up, everything was an A minus or a straight A. Like, and then I think Game of Thrones really fucked over Hollywood. Like that really fucked over Hollywood because that was on its way to becoming the greatest TV show of all time, and then it just face planted, and everybody was like, "This is the biggest disappointment in the history of entertainment," and it's true, it is. And I don't think the industry's recovered as a result. Like,
That's
what's
interesting.
Hollywood known for? Like the Avengers, dude. Remember when we had X-Men growing up? X-Men was legit. X-Men was like real problems. X-Men was like explored like real cultural, racial
Yeah.
problems like in our country. And then we get the Avengers, and it's like it's just an excuse to get these superheroes and who are celebrities now, together. And I don't know. It's just interesting to hear you talk about the daily routine because you're right. But the American consumer slash citizen deserves better from both the private and public sector.
Dude, 100%. I mean, I'll stay on this tangent with you because as much as I love talking about the specific details of DSA, I'm also very passionate about film, the history of film, and where cinema stands in America today. The Hollywood standard, you could reach if let's say it's the 1950s, you could reach for any movie. You just walk into a movie theater, you're gonna have a good time if there's a movie playing. Like every movie today just sucks ass. I mean,
So
it's
bad.
just horrible, and they're all
Horrible.
3 hours long, and every movie looks exactly the same. There's no sense of expression in any of these movies, and it's so boring. And it's like, and it's all for the what I heard this term recently. I didn't know it. That might sound banal to other people, but the kid alt, which is like the Disney adult.
Right.
Everything's targeted at this Disney adult, and I'm a
Refuses to
grown
grow
man.
up.
I don't want to see Minion 6. Like
Yeah,
Jesus
exactly.
Christ. Can we get any other thing to talk about other than a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of something that wasn't even that good? So the the current place that we are in capitalism, because there's no reason for the people at the top to allow for actual artistic expression, has just completely flattened any sense of
Yep.
culture as well. The culture
Yep.
is just,
Originality is dead.
dude, you go on to open up Instagram, half of what you see on Instagram is just ads anyways for like some
Right.
new type of toilet paper. You're like, oh, we have this comes just from the Amazon. Buy my toilet paper. Everything's an ad. There's no artistic expression in anything that you can get in the media at all, unless
Right.
you're going on, you're looking up shows like this and like intentionally seeking
Yes.
out things that might stimulate you as a person.
Yeah, and part of my game development process right now is to get better at like making original posts in Instagram and making
Yeah,
sure that Instagram can be kind of a gateway into my essays, which is the material that I'm most proud of. But, it's varying degrees of success. It's a little frustrating because identity does matter in this space. In this space, I mean, the progressive YouTube space, where like for example, these women from Bravo have this show called I've Had It, and they're originally from like Oklahoma City. These two white wine moms and suburban wine moms, and they're great. Like I give them all the credit in the world. They're fantastic, but they're just saying all the same shit that you and I and people like us have been saying for years now, like 10 years now, and or more. And it's just the fact that it's suburban wine moms saying it is why the suburban wine moms listen. So here we
sure.
are again back at one of the cardinal sins of American party politics, narcissism. Now, with that said, the straight white guy, like you and I are both we can do things rhetorically. You know, we're allowed to get a little pissed off rhetorically in public spaces, and people kind of will still take us seriously. So that's an advantage. So how do we kind of make use of that advantage? And that's another thing I think DSA actually does a really great job of, which is, developed chapters do a good job of this, is putting people in positions to succeed, like based on their interests, skills, and abilities. And I want an equal opportunity society, but the way we get there is not by embracing blind faith in equality. Not everybody's cut out to be a general. Not everybody's cut out to be a captain. You know, some people are just going to be foot soldiers. This kind of goes back to the layering of different kinds of members within the DSA that we have. So I think the real key for the DSA taking that next big leap forward is kind of identifying talent within the organization and maybe even recruiting talent straight out of college for like steering committee. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me speak to this. So,
yeah.
You know, I have an article that's going to come out in the California Red in a little bit here called "Chant Your Comrade's Name," and it's specifically about how in my chapter, you know, we were like any other DSA chapter that's struggling for a few years, and in 2024 I got into leadership. It's not entirely my doing, but new leadership changed our chapter, and we did it with what we introduced was first called our strategic plan, which made us focus on our 4 buckets of being able to be externally involved in coalitions, being able to grow our infrastructure, and thinking about this very deeply. That went really well for 2025. You know, we exploded our membership. You know, we had only 450 members in our chapter at our 2025 convention. Now we have over 760 members. It has grown dramatically. And so for our convention, our theme was to have a strategic convention, and we worked with members to develop strategic resolutions for the direction of our chapter, and it took a lot of time and focus to get them there. And one of the ones that we created was a resolution called Monumental Mentorship, which is that each steering committee member, we have 9 people on our steering committee, have to adopt 2 mentees that they are going to mentor through the year, and
That's
all
awesome.
the rest of our working group chairs are recommended to have them, so that we are intentionally creating a new crop of people. And we find out, okay, we have some people, their goals might be just to be a co-chair of electoral working group. Cool, we'll work on that. We might have someone who wants to run for elected office. Okay, we'll work with you on that and create a new crop of leaderships. And one of my favorite words, and I think you'll appreciate this, is to contrive. You have to contrive these things. They don't just fall out of the sky.
Right.
Like, you have to build leaders. You have to grow people. They don't just show up fully made. And I'm very proud of what our chapter has done in that. And I hope that the article highlights that in a way that other chapters that are maybe feeling like they're struggling in that area are like, okay, I can snag that for my own chapter and intentionally grow people.
Yeah, and I think that you're also hitting on another part of why I think DSA's communications apparatus top down needs to improve, because the only reason I know about that idea from you is by talking to you, whereas because we're struggling and growing chapter, kind of trying to resurrect the chapter, to be honest with you, it'd be cool to know about these best practices that takes place at these other chapters. And there just isn't that communication apparatus. I mean, I am really struggling. The biggest frustration with me for the DSA right now is that they don't use their YouTube channel. They have 12,000 subscribers. They have the foundation. Like, the toughest part of YouTube is getting to that 10,000 subscriber number, and they have it, and they're not using it. I'm like, you guys should be creating daily content on this bitch. Like, why not? It'd be so good. It'd be so good. But that's a cool program 100%. That you guys have. That's very, very creative. Did you come up with that, or did somebody else come up with that?
That was my resolution, was the monumental mentorship. We also have another leadership development resolution. Some of them are highlighted in the article. We list them out there, but I can also like send I can send you our compendium for you guys to have this. And to one of the things that I am most disappointed in California DSA, and it's hard. Like I don't mean to critique specific people on the CA. For folks that don't know, we have individual chapters, and then there's what's called California DSA, which is delegates are sent from each chapter. We're actually working on our election right now of sending our 4 delegates, or they're getting elected. We have very little coordination between, even in the Bay. You'd think, okay, the Bay Area, all these chapters, I think we have 5 different chapters, almost no coordination. Mm-hmm. And we really have to lift that up, especially across a state like this, where there's so much fertile soil for us to grow our movement in the biggest state with the biggest economy, where the tech workers are, where we're about to see the most brutal mass exodus of layoffs and firings is going to come in tech in the next few years over AI.
With AI,
DSA needs to be ready with a bucket to pick up all these disaffected tech workers who thought, oh, I'm a programmer. That means I'm going to be good for life, right? Nope. You just got kicked off. You sent into the conveyor belt of precarity like every other fucking worker that exists, and we need to be ready to pick them up. And if we're not coordinated across the state, we won't do it at the level that we could. And to me, it's all about how do we realize the potential that we have, and constantly we're just not quite there. And I want to get there.
I think it's leadership. I think it's I know we are the Democratic Socialists of America, and I don't want to suggest centralizing things. I want to, except for like a few things. And one would be networking infrastructure. That should be National's like number 1 priority, should be networking infrastructure, so that chapters can talk to each other. Like, for example, I sent out a note to Baltimore because I wanted to know what they thought of Wes Moore. Never heard back. You know, I put a video I put a special video together for the comms committee, arguing for not even arguing, but just giving them ideas for what to do with the YouTube channel. Never heard back. You know,
bro. Our convention. So in my article, there's all these pictures of our convention, and we went above and beyond as far as like the looks. Like we have all these decorations. We pay for lunch for our convention. We had Dean Preston, who is a San Francisco Board of Supervisor, come down and be our keynote speaker. So it felt special. We sent a notice out for members to dress up. And so it was like not quite a formal event, but like people are wearing suits and ties, and it feels special. And, I was telling my friends in Portland DSA about it. They said there's so much non-hierarchical, like horizontalism in their chapter. To even get a convention together is controversial. And so, like, of course, we don't need a central committee that decides everything. But if you're a 4,000 person chapter like Portland DSA, people will resist the idea, oh, that's a little too organized for me. Someone might tell me what to do. Like, give me a break, dude. Like, go to your community garden and stay there. Like, one thing I think, I hope you'll appreciate this, is I read, it's funny. You said you don't read a lot. I do like to read a lot. And one of the things I read a lot are business books. And there's a wealth of information about organizational structure from our so-called enemies that I think people stay away from, like it's the plague. And they say, dude, but you don't know how to run an organization. And so
branding, marketing, sales, I've done it all, and it's all useful. It's all useful.
So useful.
It's transactional. Once you get someone, there's 2 transactions. One is getting them to become a DSA member. As soon as someone starts signing up, they're attached, they're involved. The chances of them leaving, now it's up to you. That's the hard part. Other transaction is getting them to vote. And once someone votes for the first time, they're likely to keep voting for the rest of their life. So that would be the other avenue for us to catalyze positive change.
Yeah. How do you have someone become, if you want to use really like brazen sort of capitalist corporate terms, like how do you have someone become a customer and then become a repeat customer? That's the biggest. Exactly. That's the biggest divide.
Well, and like real quick though, one of the corporate buzzwords that people love to talk about is branding. And what's your brand? What's your brand? McDonald's has a brand. Joe Biden has a brand. Trump's got a brand, right? What's the DSA brand? People are nervous about that term as they should be, because it is a capitalist term. All it means is reputation. That's
Right.
all it means. That's just what a brand means. It just means past behavior is an indication of future behavior. So if you're going to a McDonald's, you know what kind of burger you're going to get because you've already been told what kind of burger you're going to get, and they give it to you that way every fucking time. And so what's
Right.
the DSA brand? What's our reputation? And that's why I really harp on electoralism. I say we can fuck up everything else. If we nail electoralism, whenever elections come up, people will start to look at us for like the voter guide. Because especially with the lower elections, dude, nobody knows who these people are. Nobody's doing their
Right.
own homework. A lot of it's identity politics in California because we have a diverse population out here.
Yeah.
So, if some Mexican American immigrant sees a Latino on the ballot for local controller, it doesn't matter. They're going to vote
Yep.
that way.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's only electoralism. As a labor guy,
Oh, no.
I think
I just mean that that's just where my value is and my passion is in terms of just like carving out a core competency, another capitalist term, for the DSA. But yes, labor relationships, absolutely right up there too.
So, sticking with the branding idea, because
Yeah.
I think you and I are in very much agreement. Like the way that I try to articulate this is to have a Marxist understanding of the capitalist mode of production is to not hate it because they make things. It's about the distribution of the resources in the end. It's not bad to build airplanes. It's who gets paid at the end.
Right.
Airplanes are good. I just went to Portland for my mother's birthday and was able to, be there in an hour and a half. There's nothing wrong with developing organizations that make things, that do things. It's where do the spoils go in the end?
Yes.
So I think
Money.
there's a sort of aesthetic, reflexive, I can't think of the right word. People will stay away
Rejection?
from it on the left. Yeah, they'll sort of reject. They don't want to understand these things because it feels icky to them.
Right.
But the thing that capitalists have figured out, like, dude, one of my favorite books I've read recently was the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson, and fascinating.
I actually have read that.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend any leftist read it to learn about somebody who is fully set on building their brand top to bottom, and of course, a human person who made plenty of mistakes. But like thinking about these details and the way you structure your organization. It is not going to turn you into a bad man. It's going to actually make you successful. And then you decide how you distribute the resources in your end. But they've done us a lot of favors, and they know how do you get the most out of the people in your organization.
Productivity.
Like they've done that for us. And what's the Marxist phrase is that like they've created the tools that will dig their own graves. Like we can take that and use it for ourselves. But to just say, well, I don't want to know about how to do branding. Well, then you will lose because nobody will ever hear of you. And
I would just say,
create a brand.
And I would just say to that person,
then
I would just say to that person, you're not cut out to be on the steering committee. Then you're not cut out for leadership. You want to be here, you want to help, that's fine, but just understand, like, I'm not going to support you being in leadership because that's what you're really talking about with a lot of this capitalism, like lessons that we can draw from it. It's the culture of competition. We're back to that. Like we're back to understanding how to win. Like the capitalist is like, I'm going to be a winner in the marketplace and fuck everybody else. And I'm going to get mine. Right. Well, the socialist looks at the marketplace like, well, what about the losers? What about all those defunct businesses? What about all those people that work for those companies that didn't make it? What happens to them? Right. Like they're not losers. They were just on the wrong fucking team. So it's on society to take care of them. But let's go ahead and wrap soon. I really want to appreciate Tracy Eva for commenting so much. Thank you so much. She's a big fan of yours, as you can tell. And we can take the parts of capitalism that works and adapt it to DSA's objectives and needs. Yes, it's just learning lessons about competition. Just take away the capitalism and put in competition, and you're good because it's kind of the same thing. But go ahead and take us home here, Jessen, with any final thoughts, or if you have any questions for me, if you want to cover anything else before you go, let's do that with these last few minutes. But you've been a great guest, man. It's a treat to hear how things are done differently in different chapters. Particularly that mentoring program you came up with is brilliant.
Yeah, I'm happy to share, and thank you very much for having me. I definitely would like to come and chat some more. So, some of the ideas for myself in particular that when we talk about a personal brand, I would say that the brand that I want to introduce to DSA is the concept of the radical professional. That we are professional about our radicalism. It means we're serious business about what we do. You know, I think Zoran just exemplified it perfectly. Like he was like lightning in a bottle, and we need to be able to capture that. Like you notice some of the aesthetics things. Does Zoran show up in a disheveled T-shirt that doesn't fit him? No, the guy's
No.
always in a suit. The guy's
Yes.
always in a suit,
Oh
and he
my
always
God, does
looks
that
good.
matter? My
It
God,
really
does that
matters.
matter? The appearances matter, guys. The appearances
It's
matter.
so and like this your desperate desire for it to not matter doesn't change the fact that it really does. And there's a reason why he was able to jump ahead and then utilize it. It wasn't everything, but it contributed significantly. So I would want anybody who's serious about growing their chapters to take a radical professional approach and think about how are you able to compete with all the other things that people are hearing. Are you something that when people look at you, they take you seriously?
Yes.
Or do they say there's another lunatic who is saying things I don't understand and making demands of me that I can't fulfill? So I'm very excited about what is possible in California. I think we need to use the California billionaires tax to grow DSA right now. And the irony, just bringing this back to Steyer and Becerra, Steyer supports the billionaire tax, Becerra doesn't. What does that tell you? And grow the coordination amongst all of these chapters. And I hope we can also use avenues like, you and me getting to talk to grow the coordination across the chapters.
Well,
And I sure.
no, I was just going to say the other borrowing from capitalism, it's not really a capitalist idea, but it gets credit for it, is entrepreneurialism. Is taking an entrepreneur's attitude towards changing something about the DSA. And that's why at the convention last August, I was trying to network within the California chapters as much as I could, because I think us talking to each other is only going to yield positive benefits. But being a professional is something that is not harped on enough on the left. It's like you're speaking a little bit to the left's narcissism with that looking like shit thing, where people like take disheveled, and I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, no, I don't want to look at your gut hanging out over your fucking belt because you don't want to wear a big enough coat or something. Like, come on, just get it right and look like someone that people want to talk to. And that's just practical. It's just practical.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, to me, it's ego. You want people to accept you at your worst because that's how you feel about yourself,
Ooh.
but people won't.
Yeah, that's well put. Wow, where'd you learn that? Steve Jobs book?
Well, let's just call it a Jessen original.
All right, we'll call it a radical professional original, an RPO.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That's my RPO.
All right. All right. Hey, guys, thank you for watching so much. Thank you to Jessen for joining us today on this Sunday afternoon. I'm going to start to do these more regularly with as many DSA members as I can. These last two guys have been great. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Message me if you want to get anything to Jessen or any of the other DSA members that I interview on this show. And please, from now until the day you die, never forget that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.